Okay, you were telling us that after about 7 weeks in Auschwitz, you became ill with the measles.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so there were actually two epidemics in camp. The first one was a very mild scarlet fever epidemic, and they took people away, and nobody came back. So we knew where they went. So when they took me away with the measles, my friends thought that I go to the same destination. So they cried, and but there was nothing they could do because measles were like very visible all over my body, and they couldn't hide me. I was taken to a different camp, a small camp, not where the main hospital was, but I knew through the grapevine that my cousin, who is 17 years older than I am, a practicing physician in private life, she was in this camp working in this hospital as a doctor, a prisoner, of course, as a doctor. The only reason she survived was because when their transport arrived from a different city, also in Transylvania, but a larger city, a university town, they asked doctors to stand aside when they arrived to Auschwitz. So, as a good law-abiding citizen, as we all were, she stood aside. Her only child, a little boy who turned 7 years old during that journey to Auschwitz, went with my cousin's parents, with the boy's grandparents to the left. If they didn't need doctors that day, of course, she would have gone with her child to the gas chamber. When I got to the hospital, the pediatrician, also from the same city where my cousin was from, examined me, and I told her that my cousin is there. So she came running, and she was relieved that that point they didn't take people with measles to the gas chamber. There was already a room established for people who had the measles. Eventually there was a room for people with scarlet fever too, not while I was there in the hospital. So some of these people might have also survived. My it was pretty. I was pretty ill because at 18 I think that it takes a lot out of you. You're older than you should be when you have the measles. And after the disease itself was over, I was running a high fever for weeks. They didn't actually know why, because of course we didn't have x-ray machines or nothing to establish what the root of the sickness was. They suspected that it was some kind of a secondary infection. It could have been pulmonary, or they didn't know exactly. But I was running really high fever. My cousin kept me working at this hospital as a nurse, a nurse's aide, whatever you want to call that. Obviously, the hospitals weren't filled with people who really needed medical attention, except for the couple of the epidemics. They were just filled for show. So I suppose they never knew what organization might force its way to Auschwitz one day, and they could just shut up the gas chamber for a day and show them around the hospital, same way as the postcards, I assume. I was working actually in a ward where the scarlet fever people were, and it was a very, very mild epidemic, so they were basically doing very well, all of them. They had a very slight fever at the beginning, and then they were okay. Our duties were to sweep the room, which at the beginning, I think, this spoiled little brat I think I never had a broom in my hand before, so somebody always got off the bed, an older person, and showed me how to do it. But eventually I did learn that. And I also learned how to bandage pretty well with paper bandages. That was the only thing that we had. Sometimes we would get unsorted medicine from transports. This way we got, I remember, some calcium tablets, and my cousin gave me handfuls of calcium tablets, hoping that it might help me get in a little better shape, because I was in pretty miserable shape with all that fever and everything. In this hospital, we had it a little better physically than outside, we who worked there. First of all, instead of 7 people sleeping on a double cot, two of us slept on a single cot, which was a major improvement. We did not stand roll calls, which was also not only for the fact that we didn't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but also that we didn't feel that our life is in danger every day by being selected. There is absolutely no question about it that if my cousin wouldn't have kept me in this hospital, I would not have survived the first selection. I never had any extra weight. I lost some during the first 7 weeks. I lost more with the measles and the high fever. Dr. Mengele came every single day, and he inspected every room every single day, and we had to report to him as how many prisoners, we were not allowed to say people, we had in each room. The only way I could survive even in the hospital was that when I had a very high fever and I couldn't be working, they woke up the night nurse and sent her on the floor while Mengele was inspecting, and they told him that I'm the night nurse sleeping in the nurse's room, because only one person was allowed to sleep during the day, and that was the one night nurse in the whole hospital. So that's the way I survived. My cousin was really wonderful. She was very brave. I assume losing her only child, life didn't matter a lot to her at that time. She was the only person who even dared sort of argue maybe with Mengele, who didn't just submit to his requests. Eventually everybody had to, but she tried her best. She worked instead of me when I was sick. Her sister was there too, who is closer to my age. She was sick a lot. She did her job too. She was stealing potatoes for the patients in the hospital, and she did really everything she could. She worked a lot. I suppose she really buried her sorrow and her terrible sadness losing her only child in work every day. Also, she did something that would have cost her life every time she did it, and that I didn't know until later when, we came back and she told me. There were women who were at the very beginning of their pregnancy, maybe they even didn't know that they're pregnant when they arrived to Auschwitz, and they found out later. Performing an abortion was risking your life. It was illegal, it was not allowed, it was definitely punishable by death. She did a lot of those under the worst circumstances, in total secret, risking her life every time she did it, but trying to save a life every time she would do it.